New data analysis by Sky News is revealing how renters are becoming more vulnerable to interest rate rises than mortgage holders, who are now in the minority in the UK. Sky's business correspondent Paul Kelso has been crunching the numbers. Paul.
We've spent a lot of time, haven't we, Jane, talking about mortgage holders and the impact of rising interest rates in the last few months. But data analysis by Sky News' data and forensics team shows that renters are actually more exposed to these increases and now, in fact, the largest home occupancy group by tenancy. Look at this chart. This breaks down how people occupy their homes by renting, mortgage, or whether they own the home outright. We can see here mortgages, just 30%, the smallest group. 33% own their homes outright. But you add up private renting and social renting here, that's 37%. So more people rent their homes than either of those other groups. A quick look at the demographics, which are interesting. Over 65s, 71% own their homes outright. You'd expect them to as they pay off mortgages. But look at the tiny amount of younger people, and particularly this smaller number of mortgages under 16 to 34-year-olds. We can see how this picture has developed over time in the next chart here, how this shows us census data going back to the 1990s. And we can see the trajectory here. Back in the 90s, the light blue line, mortgages, over 40% of people had a mortgage. But look at that sharp decline. Now, some of that's natural. People pay off their mortgages, don't they? So the dark blue line rises. But those who own their homes outright haven't been replaced by new homeowners with mortgages at the same rate. And what's happened is that the number of people renting has risen. And that's because the cost of buying homes has become way less affordable. It now costs more than 8 times the average salary to buy the average home. And this has had a real shift in where the UK sits. In Europe, we think of the UK as a home-owning democracy, don't we? Ever since Mrs Thatcher and the right to buy, encouraging home ownership compared to Europe. Well, look, it's now the 4th most likely place where you will be a renter in Europe, below only Denmark, Austria and Germany. More than 50% of people, a very different culture. Issue is that while there's a lot of attention on home ownership, legislation, the culture around renting, particularly protection for renters, has not gone at the same rate as this change in the way we occupy our homes. That matters particularly because if you're renting, you are much more likely to be vulnerable to increasing costs. Renters spend about 33% of their income on their housing costs compared to around 22% if you're a homeowner. That matters particularly if you're someone like Andy Mikalakis, who lives in Stevenage. I went to see her yesterday. She's been issued a Section 21, so-called no-fault eviction notice. The landlord can effectively, for no reason, turf her and her son out of her home. This is what she told me.
I moved here 9 years ago, like I said, because it was cheaper. I thought it would be better than London for the children. It's a nicer area. I don't feel that, why should I have to get up now and have to move even further out and restart life again to try and find something cheaper because nobody wants to help. And that's the only other option. But that means I'm away from my son, my eldest, who's my support. I'll totally have no one, and I'm already kind of housebound. I barely mix with anyone after I got ill.
Now, Andy's been served with a notice she should leave her home today, but she's been told by the council not to leave until bailiffs physically arrive to turf her out, because that will increase her chances of getting social housing. The government has promised to end that form of no-fault eviction. There's a Rental Reform Act before Parliament, but no date for it to come into legislation. Until it does, renters are left vulnerable.